Alright everyone, it's officially that time of year. The time of year where you hear new year, new me all too often. That period of time when you mistakenly still date things 2024, and as always, the time of year where millions of people will sign up for gym memberships only to cancel them before the end of the month. For me, I'm going to try to do the impossible, predict the future of sports business. But first, let me make something very clear. I know some of these predictions won't come true. In fact, I'd be more concerned if I did get everything right. The goal here isn't to be 100% accurate. Oftentimes, lists like these predict things that are either completely obvious or wildly impossible. With that in mind, I wanted to challenge myself to think critically about the future and predict what might happen based on trends I've been seeing develop over the last few months and years. If you agree with any of my predictions, great. If not, comment on this video to tell me why. If I've learned anything about the internet over the years, it's that it's a great place for civil and polite debate. So without further ado, here are my Joe Pomp predictions for the future of sports business. Prediction number 1, the UFC will sign a multi-network media rights deal. In the last year, we've seen mega media rights deals made for the NBA and WNBA get done. And if those contracts tell us anything, it's that the UFC will be the most interesting media rights deal to watch in 2025. After spending the last few years as the main attraction on ESPN+, the UFC has become severely undervalued, and lucky for them, they're one of the few major sports properties scheduled to hit the market over the next few years. While ESPN has an exclusive negotiating window with UFC in Q1, I have a feeling that the mixed martial arts company will transition from a one-network model to a multi-network model, similar to other sports leagues like the NFL and NBA. ESPN will likely keep most of the rights as they launch their new flagship streaming service, but don't be surprised if another titan of media gets involved in the UFC. Yep, I'm talking about Netflix, the Pac-Man of media rights deals. It's important to remember Netflix is paying $5 billion for the rights to WWE's Monday Night Raw, a company owned by UFC's parent company, TKO. And an annual event at the Las Vegas Sphere would fit right into Netflix's premium live event strategy. Sure, Dana White has said that the UFC wouldn't be holding any more events at the Sphere due to it costing $20 million to put on. But $20 million is a drop in the bucket for Netflix. They spent $500 million to lock in Seinfeld until 2026. And if the streaming giant can turn UFC at the Sphere into a once or twice per year must-see event, they'll be able to justify the cost just fine. Prediction number 2, a college football program will be purchased by a private equity firm. It's no secret that private equity investors have been circling the waters on college sports, especially college football, for some time. Former Milwaukee Bucks owner Mark Lassery said the quiet part out loud a few weeks ago when he admitted he was actively putting together acquisition proposals for several college football programs.
I think it's a phenomenal opportunity, and I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a number of schools selling their teams. And the reason for that, to whom? To folks like us. Like, we're bidding on a couple teams, I can't tell you, but in essence, what we would do is buy 51% of the team.
Now, there are still plenty of questions about the logistics of it all and how this would actually work. And while I don't have that answer, I could totally see the first move happening with a private equity firm buying a minority stake in a program as opposed to a majority stake. However, thanks to NIL and schools across the country battling it out to see who can spend the most money on facilities, there's now a premium on having cash in the bank. And some of the top college football programs would likely be valued at over $1 billion if they were to hit the open market. In fact, I'd keep an eye out for Florida State. They're a top D1 school who also happens to be one of the few major college programs to openly discuss their interest in private equity investment. Prediction number 3, the Chicago Bears will change course, ditching their downtown stadium plan to head back to Arlington Park. By the time you watch this video, the Bears will probably have already changed their mind. The team has been working on a new stadium deal for years now, going as far to hire former Big Ten Conference Commissioner Kevin Warren to lead the process. The initial plan was pretty straightforward. Build a new stadium 25 miles northwest of the city on a 326-acre plot of land in Arlington Heights that the Bears purchased for almost $200 million. That's when things got a little more complicated, though. After months of back and forth with Arlington Heights area school districts to decide on the land's assessed value for property tax purposes, the Bears grew tired of getting nowhere and shifted gears, unveiling a new stadium plan last year involving a downtown stadium built directly next to the current stadium. I know I might sound like a broken record here, but I don't think this new plan is going to happen for a number of reasons, but mainly because of money. I'm not alone in this line of thinking either. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has already called the current proposal a non-starter because it involves billions of dollars in taxpayer money being given to the Bears. While plenty of Chicago natives would gladly donate their life savings to their hometown team, the use of taxpayer money is unfair, given the Bears would be able to reap the financial rewards from their ability to host dozens of non-football events at the venue, none of which would go back to the people of Chicago. What's more likely to happen instead is that the downtown stadium proposal was just a bargaining chip to get a better deal in Arlington Heights. The original deal would be substantially better for both the team and the fans, making quality of life improvements for fans like more parking, while giving the Bears the opportunity to have more real estate and get in on that sweet mixed-use development money. But wherever the Bears end up playing, let's just hope they find a way to keep Caleb Williams off his back next season. Prediction number 4, the PGA Tour Live Golf deal will finally get done, but nothing will change. It's been 2 years since the initial framework agreement between the PGA Tour and Live Golf was announced. In that same period of time, Donald Trump has gone from inmate number P01135809 to president number 47. So while things have changed in a big way for Trump, absolutely nothing has changed for the future of professional golf. Both the PGA Tour and Live Golf are still operating as separate entities. Live Golf continues to build out its unique team ownership model, while the PGA Tour sticks with the "if I can't see you, you don't exist" strategy. Let's be clear though, the deal is eventually going to get done. No surprise there. But what will surprise people is that when a finalized deal does get done, it won't really change anything. While most people expect a partnership between the PGA Tour and LIV would result in all the world's best golfers playing against each other once again in the same tournaments, the reality is a little bit different. The Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund is actually just buying a small stake, call it less than 10%, in the PGA Tour's new for-profit business. Sure, a positive short-term step would be getting some of the top LIV Golf players back into PGA Tour tournaments, but even that is still probably a year or two away. Not to mention the fact that neither organization seems to be in a rush to make it happen. Prediction number 5. College basketball starts to become the NBA's G League. It's not a revolutionary idea to think of college basketball as just a training ground for the NBA. High school recruits still have to wait at least 1 year until turning professional, so most of the top players still attend at least one semester of college in what I like to call a John Calipari education. But while blue blood programs like Duke, UNC, and Kansas continue to sell recruits based on the history and tradition of their programs, the smartest college basketball schools will shift more aggressively towards an NBA model. Take BYU for example. The Provo-based school has changed their strategy to go after coaches, training staff, and team dietitians directly from the NBA, including Director of Analytics Akash Sebastian, formerly a coaching analyst with the Suns and Jazz, lead assistant coach Will Voigt, who spent time coaching in the G League, and of course Kevin Young, formerly the NBA's highest paid assistant coach for the Phoenix Suns, who agreed to be their new head coach after signing a 7-year deal worth $30 million. BYU has raised a ton of NIL money to build its impressive roster, signing 4 of the 9 highest rated recruits in BYU history, including AJ DeBonsa, the #1 highest rated recruit in the 2025 class. But the real reason they're able to land top guys like DeBonsa is because they've shifted their program strategy to be more like a training ground for the NBA. Similar to what UNC is attempting to do with Bill Belichick, BYU's recruiting pitch now exclusively revolves around the idea that they have the tools and people to preparing for the NBA. Prediction number 6. The NBA will announce expansion teams in Seattle and Las Vegas. Now, this isn't that wild of a prediction. The NBA has been explicit about expanding from 30 to 32 teams. And it's also not a big secret that those 2 expansion franchises will be eventually awarded to Seattle and Las Vegas. Adam Silver has continuously said the league would wait to announce the expansion plans until the new media rights deal was figured out. And with that in the rearview mirror now, an official expansion announcement could come any day. However, my real prediction is that the announcement won't happen until after the Boston Celtics sale is complete. With the defending NBA champion possibly trading at a valuation north of $6 billion, the final figure, whatever it ends up being, would be an extremely helpful data point for determining expansion fees. Once the Celtics sale is finalized, I expect the NBA's expansion announcement to happen soon after. For the Las Vegas bid, my guess is Fenway Sports Group along with minority owner LeBron James will be involved. And for the Seattle franchise, I imagine the Kraken ownership group or someone from Amazon like Jeff Bezos or Andy Jassy would be part of that deal. And now for my final prediction. Drumroll please, the NFL will add an 18th regular season game and expand its international schedule. Nothing is ever certain when it comes to the National Football League, but it's almost a guarantee that Commissioner Roger Goodell will add an additional regular season game to the league's increasingly growing schedule. Why am I so confident? Well, for starters, Goodell hasn't stopped talking about it.
I'd rather replace a preseason game with a regular season any day. That's just picking quality, right? So if we got to 18-2, that's not an unreasonable thing. People look at the preseason and regular season and say, would I like to have one more regular season and one less preseason? I think the answer to that is yes. Less preseason games and more regular season games, I think most anybody would think was beneficial.
The current plan is that an 18th regular season game along with a second bye week. Most importantly though, the extra game would push the Super Bowl back a week, landing on President's Day weekend, which if you didn't know, is one of those federal holidays that gives us a 3-day weekend. Yes, that means you'll finally have the day off after Super Bowl Sunday. If Goodell finally gives the football world something they've been asking for since the beginning of time, maybe he won't get booed at the draft anymore.
All right, Detroit. Come on.
Okay, maybe that's just wishful thinking. Anyways, while most people think this change will happen towards the end of the decade when the NFL's collective bargaining agreement is up for renewal, I predict Roger Goodell and the league's 32 owners will push it through sooner rather than later. While adding another regular season game might increase the revenue sharing deal the league has with its players, it's not a huge concern for the NFL because adding more games would give them more inventory to expand its international slate. Another talking point that Roger Goodell has been hitting on for the better part of a year.
If we do expand our regular season, to an 18-2 structure, I see us going to 16 of those games in international markets. We believe that the game is going to be incredibly popular globally. We just have to bring more games to it.
I think when we take the game to these markets, the television, the media, it all helps. But at the end of the day, when they get here and they get into this environment, and even people that aren't here hear it from them, it becomes a big event, and it's what captures them, I think. And I think it's going to put us on a rocket ship.
And if we do get to an 18-2 game season, we likely will see even more international games. And I hope someday we'll be playing 16.
And with more games and an expanded international presence, the NFL will likely opt out of its media rights deal in 2029 to negotiate a new deal spread across several cable and streaming platforms that could be worth more than $150 billion. So there you have it. Those are my 7 biggest predictions on the future of sports business. 2024 was a wild year for sports. Scottie Scheffler got arrested. The Florida Panthers won their first ever Stanley Cup, and breakdancing made its first and probably last appearance at the Olympics. What will happen in 2025? Nobody knows, but I think we can all agree on one thing. We need more Ray Gun. Happy New Year, everyone, and thanks for watching.